I'm all right, dude. You know, I've pulled the cover off. I've had beer. I've had lunch, and now I'm like,
calm down a little
finally.
bit. Yeah. Well, the vehicle looks incredible. Looks so good.
Thank you.
I
dude.
remember. I love the clip of you in this when it was getting towed.
Yeah.
I thought it was the coolest thing that. It was bound to happen, that you were bound to build something like this.
I had to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If not us, then who? Somebody had to do it.
Right, you're the guy. You're the Corvette guy. How did it start? Obviously, not a running car, right? Originally. Like, did you find it as a salvage vehicle, or?
So you know what's kind of strange? All of my Corvettes that I've turned into something serious all started life as a flood car. If I had to buy this car at a normal price, it wouldn't be here today. So I found an amazing deal on Copart when the East Coast had all of those floods. I mean, they have them every year nowadays, but it came from Florida. It was literally floating down the street because it had like rub marks on the fender. It ran into a tree or something, it broke the windshield, and it had sand up to the freaking roof. So when we got this thing, we started tearing it apart. It was clearly not just like a car that got some water in it. No, it was a severe flood damage car.
Oh my God. Flood car, it's like all the good things in terms of leaves you enough to work with, gets rid of, or you pretty much can get rid of the stuff that you don't need.
Yep.
And then you have a pretty good blank canvas to build into the ultimate drift car.
So the cool thing about getting a flood damage car is it doesn't immediately have to go to a frame rack. You have a good zero. The chassis was perfectly straight. I think it had 1,400 miles on it before it got flooded. Hadn't even seen its first oil change yet, which is a little sad. But what it also means is that I had the ability to sell off a bunch of parts. Body panels, pretty valuable. Some of the interior pieces, pretty valuable. A lot of the suspension and steering rack and stuff that I wasn't using, the brakes, all had value. So what it meant was that I was able to get a good chassis and pretty much some headlights and some taillights at a fraction of the cost of being able to, having to buy this car. When you see the intro, right, of like my YouTube series, yeah! This car was being pulled by my demo car.
Yeah, I love that.
The whole point of that was like, I want somebody to think, Matt just got a C8. No way, he got a C8. But really, it's just a piece of junk that would never run. That's a severe flood damage. And then that was kind of the kickoff to the series. But including my first C6, that was a white flood damage car from the East Coast. And that's really what, launched us into the Corvette world, I guess.
So then we are in the Borla booth. So
of
really
course,
the feature of this is the crazy exhaust. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, right?
What the hell?
I've heard a couple of 8-into-1 vehicles, and I was like, those are some of the best sounding V8s that I've ever heard. Then I started going down.
The tone.
It's different,
Crispy.
Yeah, crispy.
So good.
High pitched, but still very V8 throatiness. You know it's a V8. We're not selling it as a Formula One car. It is a pushrod V8 engine that revs high. But yeah, this is going to be a different story. That's for sure. Because these are all equal length. It is all designed in CAD. And the workflow has been very different with this car. So because we have the CAD from GM of the chassis, then we have the scan of the CAD of the actual engine, the real manifold, the real heads, all of that. We're able to place it in the chassis, and then we give that data to Borla, and Borla's CAD engineers build the exhaust. It's all CNC bent, it's all laser cut. They had a rack full of tubes, and they basically had 4 days to put this entire thing together, which is absolutely ridiculous.
So then GM knows about this project?
So how it works is kind of a cool deal that manufacturers have through SEMA. It's through SEMA Garage, where a manufacturer can request CAD drawings of a vehicle if they're doing certain things, suspension, aero, whatnot, and then SEMA can approve you to give you CAD files through that. So it's an awesome thing that SEMA has for a lot of builders that maybe people don't know and aren't able to access it, but the information is out there. You just have to find
this
a way.
allows you to build the wildest stuff without having that manufacturer support.
Right. Which is a bummer, and I'm still knocking on the door, and I have faith that one day GM's gonna see this and give me a call, and everything is gonna be unicorns and rainbows. But till then, what it meant was that we're able to do stuff like this perfect.
Holy cow.
And we were able to do this. Rad Rob and Cad Chris designed this whole transaxle mount and literally shipped it to me, and I set it on the car, and it was absolute perfection. The stuff and the fitment is unreal, and that's just the level of CAD nowadays.
And then so why is it that the stock mount wouldn't work?
So the stock transmission is really short.
Oh.
And because this is a sequential gearbox that is meant to hold 1,000 horsepower plus, so this is a Weddle S5, so it's a sequential 5-speed transaxle gearbox. And when I to be honest, Weddle had a huge part of this project, because when I was figuring, all right, I'm gonna buy one of these cars and I wanna build it into a drift car, the biggest thing was, what do you do about the transmission? They're all automatics.
Yeah.
Every C8's an automatic.
Yeah.
None of them have clutch pedals. So I'm like, all right, I need to find a transaxle for this. But there's a couple of stipulations that require to fit in the chassis.
Right.
The first was that the CV is really close to the back of the engine. Did you see how the line of the axles, it is still even a little bit forward, right?
Right.
But on a lot of the other transaxles, this output was way further back, so that just wouldn't have worked. And also the fact that the CVs are above the input shaft. So because you have a couple of things, and that meant that Weddle is able to actually flip this transaxle forward or upside down, depending on if it's an off-road application or a street application. And when I reached out to them and I told them what I was building, they're like, we'll send you the CAD files right now. Just need to sign an NDA. It's no problem. We have these for builders like you. And sure enough, it fit checked all the boxes, and working with Weddle has been an absolute amazing experience.
So these don't come in like a normal vehicle, they're just for race cars and specialty built cars?
So you know what's funny? To the keen eye for some of your viewers who are like Volkswagen people, not like Audi Volkswagen, like VW, buses and bugs, this is basically a Volkswagen bus transmission that has been like beefed up over the years, right? Over the past 50 years, it has evolved greatly. So some of the people will look at that and be like, that's a Volkswagen bell housing, that's a Volkswagen starter, because that's how all these transaxle race vehicles started out as. Because these are basically sand or off-road, like class 1 buggy gearboxes.
So then how were you able to adapt it to the transmission?
So the good thing is that because this is an LS engine, they make everything for them. So a lot of these off-road cars are all LS based. So when I reached out to Weddle, I'm like, do you have it in this configuration, this and this? They're like, yeah, of course, we do that all the time. Because they'll do like rear engine, mid engine. So they basically had this ready to go, and it just fit in the box, which was the craziest thing.
So then what about the motor package here?
The engine is by far the craziest part of this entire build. I'm gonna try to keep this as concise as possible, but I wanna make sure that you guys see how like absolutely nerdy we went with this. So I started going down the rabbit hole. I started with like, what's the sickest, most badass heads you can do for naturally aspirated LS? Because I knew I wanted to keep belt stuff to a minimum, because look at it, you can't even see the front of the engine. So I wanted to do naturally aspirated, I wanted to rev high. So I started asking my buddy Samir at Grom Racing, I'm like, what kind of heads, what kind of manifold, this. And he gives me some info, and I kind of had plans of putting a Texas Speed engine in it, because I work with Texas Speed through the race program. And I went really, really deep down the rabbit hole. And what we wound up with is this monster of an engine. It is a 4 1/4 stroke. It is a concept performance block. So that's an LS base block. It's called an LSR. The best aluminum LS blocks on the market by far. It's tall deck and raised cam. So that means that the block is overall slightly larger, and the camshaft is even raised in the block so that you can fit a larger stroke crank. This is a 4 1/4 stroke crank. It's a huge, huge stroke to be turning to 9,000 RPM, which is what we're doing. And the cylinder heads are basically an SC2 cylinder head. So that's like a Pro Stock style, a Winston Cup NASCAR style head, which means that the valves are in a totally different position than LS. The exhaust ports raised and in a totally different position. The angle of the intake manifold, totally different position. So what it really means is like, this is a custom engine. And what Grom Racing and I have been able to do with this thing is like exceeded my expectations, but it's also not been without headache and struggle, because when you're building something cookie cutter, you can call 5 companies who have a cam for you or some push rods or some valve springs. When it comes to this, everything is one-off, every single thing, which scares the living hell out of me, because this is the only one that I have, that's for sure, so.
Did you consider just getting a C8 motor and doing that?
So I'm an LS guy, and the C8 stuff is all LT. So that's
Right.
direct inject, newer technology. Some would argue could potentially be better. But me, man, I'm an LS guy, Larry. Like, that's what I know. All my race cars have it. My street cars have it. My demo car has it. So for me, it was a no-brainer. But I wanted to build the sickest naturally aspirated LS that I had ever seen. And I think that we've done it. I know that people do wilder stuff, but I haven't heard of it. And this, to me, is like the dream engine.
So what does this dyno add to the crank?
So it's 1,012 at the crank, at 9,500 RPM, turns 9,500, but we think that there's probably another 80 horse on the table with the cam change. We really kind of ran out of time. When we were at Grom, we were like, setting the valve lash, setting the plug gap, run it on the dyno, make some adjustments, degree the cam, run it on the dyno, and I was like, all right, it's got to come off and go.
1,000 NA.
Naturally aspirated, and it'll probably do 1,100. I truly believe that there's at least 1,050 out there.
So how many liters is it now?
So it's 462 cubic inches. I don't know what that works out to liters. You guys, we'll do that here and put it here. But yeah, 462 cubic inches. Crazy.
From the more stroke and everything.
So that's the thing, the bore of this engine, it's big. It's definitely big, but it's not out of this world big. Where we get the power and where we get the cubic inches is the large stroke, and the crank to rod ratio is really where we're getting it. And that's the thing that you gotta remember too, with such a large stroke, our piston speed is approaching supersonic, and that's like a no-go. So we're right in the happy area at 9,000 RPM, but there's definitely some power to be gained.
So then this being a drift car, by the way, we didn't even touch the fact that it has a Liberty Walk kit, which is just so cool.
It's the sickest body kit for a Corvette in the world.
I love the fact that it's like the most Japanese thing.
I know.
Japanese body kit on an American car.
Yeah, we got American flag valve covers and mirrors, but the most Japanese, the sickest Japanese kit you could get.
So then, what are you going to use this for? Because this is not legal for Formula Drift.
So, I think there's a little bit of a misconception of what's legal and what's not. I've been talking with Kevin Wells, the technical director of Formula Drift, through every step of the way. Having a mid-engine is legal. The problem where it gets confusing and gray is if you're having to chop the firewall out it and totally change the position of the engine. But we are very fortunate that Chevy, in my opinion, put the engine in an amazing position and put the firewall in an amazing position for a true mid-engine car. Now, if the question is, will mid-engine work? That I have no idea. We'll figure that out in the next weeks.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Denova seems to have figured it out with his Porsche.
Yep, he
right?
loves
it drifts really well.
Really well.
As we know, Tyler McCrory drifted a 993 GT2.
How did that work in your? That was like before my time of realizing what a good setup drift car was. You were probably more in tune with.
I think he was more scared to crash it than anything else, but it was pretty crazy in terms of how much tire smoke he was able to make from it. And he was able to wheel it. But this was back in 2008 when Formula Drift was really still in its infancy.
That's why I like to say in that era, all the drift cars sucked. Compared to what they are today, they were terrible. Not enough angle, the tire technology wasn't there, we all had very basic gearboxes. It was just a different world to be living in.
The thing is, I would be afraid.
Yeah.
Because look at this thing.
I know.
How are you going to wall tap this thing, dude? Look at this.
We're just going to do it.
Just the.
So that's
just going to do it.
I built as much crush room as possible.
Right.
And I hope that I keep my gearbox off the wall. That's about it.
Well, that was the one comment that Chelsea made when I was interviewing him about his 718.
Yeah.
I was like, why not a 911? He was worried about that.
Yeah, the engine's on the back bumper, basically.
Yeah. So, I know you're going to have so much more development to do.
Yes.
Maybe once it gets to that point when you feel it's appropriate to bring this to Formula Drift.
Exactly.
I'd like to see it. I think that'd be dope.
That's the ultimate goal for sure. But I think that we all realize when it does get there, there's going to need to be a couple of modifications for sure.
Yeah.
This is obviously built in this manner, but you can see here, there's actually a gap between the actual exhaust and the tips in the bumper.
Oh,
and we
I see.
do this so that the tips can live in the bumper, and then the exhaust and the engine and everything can move around.
Understood.
The other thing I just keep telling myself is, what this means is that I just have to be that much more precise. I think that moving to the Corvette, I became more precise.
You know more than anyone else. That's not, it's everyone else. It's also everybody else.
For sure.
You know?
For sure.
You're like the freaking ping pong ball over here. Everybody's just whacking you left and right.
But that's part of the game, right?
Yeah.
I built a car, I built a drift car, I didn't build a show car. I hope that it can at least do a year of demos and activations and look this good at the end of the year, and then we'll figure it out.
Dude, that's what's crazy is on paper, you set it up this way for it to be a shredder.
Yeah.
And you haven't even broke traction in this
I don't even know. No clue. Is it going to be enough power? Is it going to spin the tires? How are the gear ratios? How's the angle? Everything.
Yeah, let's talk about the front. So
all right.
This is so interesting
it's weird, right? To see.
It looks so weird. It almost, You know, at a quick glance from far away, it almost looks like a battery pack.
Oh, yeah, especially with the orange and all this. Yeah.
Okay, so what are we looking at
There's
here?
a lot going on here. This is like one of the few drift cars that you do a front radiator swap.
It's usually the other way around.
It's so weird.
How funny is that?
But this is a PWR radiator, and this is a perfect example of the level of engineering that went into this car. Normally, I would do this. I buy a radiator from Summit Racing. It's about the size that I need. I chop this off, I weld a fitting, I do a neck, I weld some tabs, and overall it fits where I need it to fit, looks pretty good, and the radiator's done. That process is like a week deal, right? By the time you order the radiator and you're calling it done, about a week. This is a little different. So my engineer, Chris, built a rough shape of a radiator with these actual tabs that would bolt to the OEM chassis holes. These are stock holes in the chassis that we just put riv nuts in. You can see the clearance that it has around the chassis, around the windshield wiper area, to the hood, like the neck to the hood. All of this stuff is very precise. Look at the Aeromotive water pump. Look how close it gets to the cowl. But Chris was able to build this in CAD. Then we send it off to PWR. PWR's engineers do their thing where they actually build out the shroud and the actual fin technology and where the bungs are going to go. And we just gave them a rough shape. Then they send that CAD back to us. Then me and Chris pop it into our program and open up on his laptop, and he FaceTimes me and we say, let's make a modification. I want to change this fitting from here to there. I want these, I want that. And then we say, all right, do a couple iterations back and forth. At this point, it's been a month. Then it goes into production, and PWR's got their production down to like 3 weeks or something like that. But by the time I have the finished radiator here in my hands, test fit into the car, it's been 2.5 months. And that's why this project has taken so long, but it's also the reason why I can destroy this radiator today and have a new one in my hands in about a week.
So then it draws air up?
Exactly.
Then? Okay.
So through the Liberty Walk bumper, there's a ton of room, and you can see that it kind of has this built-in splitter to it, which is going to really help direct the air up through the radiator.
Got it. Past the nitrous.
Yeah. Of course, we have nitrous, and this is a new one for me, Larry. I've never done this. Electronic power steering.
Whoa.
Yeah. But it's electric over hydraulic, which is new for me. So it uses a C6 steering rack, which is your traditional hydraulic steering rack, like most drift cars, but it's a electric pump. And my buddies started this company, it's called Hang Tight, that this is actually a CAN control module for this pump. So I'll be able to dial in the assist, too much, too little, to get that driver feel that I would expect out of like a hydraulic steering setup.
Got it. So then why not just a C8 rack?
So we tried to go down that road, and I have a couple of friends who are engineers in electric car companies that are way smarter than me, and they're like, Matt, you're never gonna make it work. Just trust me. And I'm like, why?
Because it's just too smart or...
Too smart, exactly. It needs the yaw sensor. It needs a steering wheel sensor. It needs ABS sensors. It needs actual vehicle speed. It needs the transmission module connected to it. There's like 5 or 10 different things that it needs just to operate and turn on in a regular manner.
In terms of like wheel, driver feel, driver feedback, you need that normal hydraulic feeling.
Yes.
But with assist.
Right. This is what I figured. We're opening up a whole can of worms of I have no idea what to expect. One thing that would be great to have consistent is the actual steering.
Yeah.
Instead of having to call engineers and try to write code just to get this thing to turn, we just want it to work normal.
It looks like it's broken. It's that much steering.
Dude, Part Shop Max was able to get 65 actual usable degrees of steering angle out of this. And to put that in comparison, my C6 has like 52.
And then is this all like C6 stuff?
Yeah, so this is really interesting. This is a C6 knuckle, the same we use on the competition car. But you can see here we chopped off the tie rod pickup point. And then Part Shop Max designed this bolt-on bracket, which is great so that if we need to modify it, it's as easy as changing the bracket versus having to change a whole new forged knuckle.
Understood.
But the real money in this is the upper and lower control arms that completely maximize the amount of angle, because we have the CAD from GT Radio, we have the CAD from Fordstar. Chris puts those together, we double check with our scanner. He's able to put that on the car and really turn the steering wheel, turn the wheel, and get every millimeter of angle out of the thing. And that's why you can see the wheel is shifted forward on this, but that's because look at the structure in the back.
Oh, yeah.
It's really different from a regular car back there.
That is just...
Look at all the webbing, and it's very
so
organic.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
So that part of the chassis is all cast?
Yeah,
That whole thing?
Because if you look at the chassis, you have cast components.
Yeah, like this huge...
Yeah, that's a shock tower right
right
there. Yeah, but then look at this. This is like extruded box tube that is then put in and bonded together. And then this will be your like standard sheet aluminum that's formed.
So crazy, man.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
It is
like
wild,
I said,
right?
on paper, this should all freaking rip first lap out.
That's what, in my mind, that's what I keep telling myself, Larry. It's everything that a C6 is with a little bit more weight in the back. But we all know that's not how it goes sometimes.
How much weight do you think?
So check it out. We just had it on the scales for the first time. There's no water and no fuel in it when we did it.
Okay.
But it was 2850 with me in it.
Okay.
Which is pretty light. So it'll definitely gain.
It's pretty comparable to your comp car now, right?
The comp car is 3050 with me in it, all loaded, nitrous fuel, brand new tires, everything.
Got it.
So I think this will be a little bit lighter, which I am happy about because it's 60-40. And I was hoping it would be closer to 55-45. But I don't know, maybe 60-40 is the money. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that'll increase your rear grip.
I know.
Having a little more weight back there.
Do you know what Chelsea's balance is on that? I know it's a lot.
I know it's not 50-50.
No,
you know,
it's
it's way heavier in the back, but
Yeah.
I have to tell you, man, that thing drifts so well, it lifts a tire just like it should, you know, so much grip, has so much forward bite. I have a problem following it in my car,
Really?
you know?
Dang.
It is so
He's
fast.
on small tires too.
Yeah, it is a fast car.
Wow.
So then, where is the fuel cell? Is it in the front?
So the fuel cell is in the tunnel, so we can go inside to kind of look. You won't be able to see it, but underneath the shifter and the handbrake, right here in this tunnel, is a 10-gallon fuel cell that lives in the forward half of the transmission tunnel here. And I do that because it's completely empty. When the car comes from GM, there's a couple of lines and like an ECU in there. And I don't know if it was because when they designed the E-Ray, they wanted it to have a place where they can put the batteries or what, but I figured it's a perfect place to put a fuel cell. And what's
Can you
really
open
cool,
the door so we can see the amazing cage work that you guys did?
Now what's really cool is underneath this plate, this is how you change the fuel pump. You take this carbon panel out, and there's an Aeromotive 5-gallon brushless fuel pump right in there. You undo the top plate, pull the fuel pump right out, put a new one right in, put the plate, go.
Huh. And then did you guys build the cage to be FD legal?
Yes, so it's a full Formula Drift legal cage, and this is actually a Cage Kits cage. It's a little bit more in depth than your traditional cage kits, meaning this was the car that they scanned. We built these doors. This is actually a C6 inner door panel from HGK that, like, because I was like, this is, I love it.
Yeah.
And we cut it out, we made it fit, we bonded it to the Anderson Composites doors, hung all the doors, mounted the seat, trimmed out everything on the roof, and then I had Cage Kits come, scan it, design it in CAD, goes back and forth with my CAD engineers, we make the modification. Oh, I want this door bar raised, I want the angle to be changed. Like, I really poured my soul into it.
You know, it's really funny to me that you're using all these other Corvette parts.
Yeah, why not?
Because it has really no relation to this chassis.
Yeah.
But it's become a thing where I talk to all these other builders, they're using Corvette parts on their
Isn't
car.
that funny? Knuckles and everything.
Yeah.
Dude, look at it's a C6 carbon dash too. Look in there.
That is so cool.
C6 carbon dash. We got the rugged radios in the center console right down the middle.
Yeah.
Because the C7 or C8 dash, if you see it, it's quite the thing. And when we took it out, I was like, all right, I really want to use this dash. It's like 30 pieces of one dash.
Wait, what is going on here? Why is there two levers?
Oh.
What the heck?
So obviously you have the handbrake, right? That's
Yep.
the black with the master cylinder.
Yep.
Then the lever in the middle is the up and down. Like it's in neutral, you pull for up, you push for down.
Yeah.
How this transaxle works is you go to neutral and then you pull the other lever to go to reverse.
Oh.
So it's a reverse lever. That's just how Weddle does things.
Interesting.
Yep. And you see that's the parking brake right there, the little red lever.
This thing, so it just...
It's a hydraulic lock,
right,
basically.
it stops the fluid.
Yep.
Right there, okay. Yeah.
So check this out, Larry. You can see the battery up in the middle in the center of the dash. It's the aluminum box, right? So that's an anti-gravity battery
Yep.
that is shoved up underneath the dash and is put as far forward as we possibly can So if you have to remove this thing, it looks like it could be quite a bit of work.
Right.
But I'll show you over here on the other side. Like this is a big prize.
I'm interrupting.
Oh, we got a bomb?
Oh no!
Interrupting.
What up, dude?
I came here to do this.
Oh no! Look at this guy.
What's up, Larry?
Oh my God!
Thank you so much,
Congratulations,
man.
brother. Congratulations.
Look at this.
This is crazy.
Thank you, dude.
I'm so stoked, dude.
So
Bro,
wild.
We used to watch this guy in a little neon 240 with crazy stripes going on it.
Yeah.
Trying to mash Daigo's door in.
Look at that, dude.
And now he's got a C8 Corvette Formula drift car.
Hey.
What that means is we're all freaking old, dude.
Oh no, hurt.
Is that a walker?
If
Is
this
that
what-
that was a walker?
If this what it means to be old, then I want to be old.
Yeah. We're there, baby. We're there.
I love
Good
it.
to see you guys.
Thank you very much.
I love
dude.
it.
Keep going.
Hell yeah.
Good to see you, bud.
Sorry
No.
to
I love it when you interrupt.
Yeah, it's
It's
perfect.
It's perfect.
The battery, jump
yeah.
cable thing.
Love anti-gravity.
Pretty cool
Love
deal.
Love what they do. I love that you put it forward to even out the weight, even though it's so light.
What's up, boys? I know, but you know, all in with the box and everything, it's 14 pounds.
Yeah.
That's, you know, whatever. So I built this with a jump post so that if you want to jump the car, you don't have to reach to the battery. You can just plug in the anti-gravity jumper, which I have, has the same plug as this right on there, and you can jump the battery right there.
Nice.
And if you have to actually take it out, I put these sweet, quick disconnects on the battery where you just, boom, pull the battery cables right off.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man, that shifter
How sick is that,
just
right?
wild.
How sick is it?
Oh my God. That is so cool. I love the carbon fiber tunnel that you guys built for the linkage.
Because underneath there is shift cables, and
Yeah.
shift cables are not like a appealing thing, right? So, yeah, actually that was Alec, my right-hand man Alec, built that trans tunnel cover. We have so much time into all of these little pieces and all of these little covers.
So, is that the stock glass?
So that's it's Lexan, but the stock glass goes in the same place, but that's a piece of polycarbonate.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
And of
This
course,
is going to be, you know, this is going to be so loud.
Yeah.
It's going to be so crazy when you floor it.
dude, there's only a tiny little piece of polycarbonate behind your head. Like the intake noises are going to be ridiculous.
When you're riding in this, you definitely have to have ear protection,
Yes.
I feel like.
So my Bell helmet has the noise canceling headphones, so that's needed. But I feel bad for the poor soul who's going to be riding in this thing for sure.
This is so much.
It's crazy, right?
A couple things I wanted to point out. The carbon work, the Anderson composite guys, killed it with the carbon work. So cool that they make all of this stuff for this application.
Yeah, we should actually close this up to appreciate the craziness that is the Anderson intake here. So this is Anderson Composites hood, trunk, roof, both pieces of the roof, and the doors. But they came out with this last SEMA, and they asked me, they're like, Matt, would you run this on your C8? I'm like, dude, that looks freaking nuts. Are you kidding me? Heck yeah.
You know what I really appreciate is that it matches with the Liberty Walk stuff. It
Quality,
goes,
right?
It goes hand in hand in terms of style too.
Yep.
Also, love the big wing so much.
Have to.
Miss the big wings in FD. I think this is super cool.
Have to.
One more thing.
How perfect does this look with the aggressiveness of the
so
Liberty Walk
cool.
kit? Yeah.
It's so cool because this, generally speaking, like this style, you would think it's like a rear radiator setup. You're getting air in, getting air out, but this
Especially
is
in
where
drift
the
car.
intake is.
Yeah, you can see the so what's cool too is that's a K&N sprint car box filter.
Nice.
That's not like your average air filter, right? But yeah, you need a hell of a freaking air filter to be able to flow that many freaking CFM.
One thing I wanted to point out also is the AIM data acquisition stuff that you have on here.
Crazy, right?
So you're taking in like ride height.
Yeah.
You're taking in like all of these things. I mean, what is it?
I could talk you through the sensor package on this car. The electronics is, my C6 is pretty advanced, and this is one step further. So this has a steering angle sensor. It has brake pressure sensors on the front brakes, the rear brakes, and the handbrake. It has GPS. It has all the engine health, also goes back to the AIM. And we're talking not just your average like fuel pressure and oil pressure, but it has like crankcase pressure. This has nitrous pressure going to the AIM. And one of the craziest things is the shock potentiometers.
I saw that.
Isn't it? It's
so
intricate
crazy.
and delicate and small. And,
how is it that's gonna last? I feel like that's gonna snap.
Oh.
You guys are so hard on equipment.
Yeah, I got mine right here.
This thing, That's crazy.
So it's definitely known by the people over at AIM, and my buddy came up with this term. He's like, you crunch those things like potato chips. And unfortunately, it's true, we do. And they're really expensive, so I can't thank those guys enough for sending me new shock potentiometers when I destroy them.
They're like, it's like breadsticks to you, man. You just snap them in half.
It's part of doing business, Larry.
This is so cool. I can't wait to see it shred.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can be there when you guys break traction for the first time.
Absolutely.
I just, really, you're making history here, you know?
We're trying, man.
Yeah.
We have a couple more things to do. So I'll run you guys through the list because we're super, super close. We need to put the engine harness on. This is a new ECU for me too. It's a Link ECU Voodoo Pro. So it's their brand new, the latest and greatest, the sickest G5 that you can get, which is, it needs to be this powerful because we're running 8 O2 sensors too. That was another thing that we could barely see in the headers. So normally a car has 1 or 2 O2 sensors, but there's an O2 sensor in every single runner. So we're gonna be able to do individual cylinder tuning. So Jay from Blackjack's gonna have his work cut out for him, that's for sure. But it's because this new ECU from Link has the capability of doing that. It's gonna be drive-by-wire, it's gonna have nitrous, which is controlled by the ECU, and 8 O2 sensors. So the electronics package on this car is something that I've never even dreamed possible. Oh, and there's like Wi-Fi tuning. You can pull the data logs from Wi-Fi. There's a little Wi-Fi antenna for it. It's the sickest stuff. Like between AIM and Link, they really stepped up and provided some of the most amazing electronics that I've ever dealt with. And for me, I'm the guy, I feel like the dumb guy in the room because I'm trying to learn how to use all of these things.
Right, it's no secret that so many drift cars in Formula Drift, so technology packed, right? That's just that little extra edge.
Yep.
But this, I feel like you've leveled up so many ways. This is probably one of the most technology-packed drift cars in the world. I mean, there's just not that many of them.
And when you see how much engineering hours went into it, it makes sense why we can kind of say that, because not every car has every single component drawn in CAD to the point where you can get a new one produced in a week, and it's just like the wiring too. Everything is mapped out, it's all logged, it's all on a Google Drive, so you know exactly where to trace each wire, and it's like, there's a lot of technology packed into this thing, and just the amount of computing that went into it is like mind-blowing.
So good. Dude, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For walking us through
There's a lot.
entire car.
We probably only also covered like half of it.
Right.
You know, there's so much more to come.
Well, we're nerds here, so we appreciate this kind of stuff so much.
So you better be there for the test day.
I
you
want
better
to be
come
there,
out.
dude. I want to be there. I want to ride in it.
Yes.
I just want to appreciate what you built and what you're able to do with this thing. I think that's the cool thing. All in the name of destroying a tire.
Yeah, it's freaking drifting, baby. What the hell are we doing
so
here?
good. All right.
Thank you, guys.